We continue now at the top of Daf Zayin Amid Beis in Meseches Kiddushin. This is Kiddushin Daf 7b. On the previous summit, Rabbi Yochanan is discussing a situation of a behem of an animal that's owned by two partners, and one of the partners is makdish his half. And so, of course, it's impossible for the kedusha to be chal on just half of the animal in terms of bringing it on the mizbeach. But then that partner who is makdish half of the behema, he goes ahead and buys the other half of the behema from the other partner, and then he's makdish the entire thing. And so Rabbi Yochanan said that in this situation it's already been pushed off from being brought in the Mizbeach, so it cannot be brought in the Mizbeach. And similarly, if you make a tzmura, if you take that Kedusha and put it onto another animal, since that first animal has been pushed off from being brought in the Mizbeach, so to the second animal also it will have Kedusha, but it cannot be brought on the Mizbeach. And so therefore Rabbi Yochanan said that instead of bringing the animal on the Mizbeach, you sell it and you use the money to bring a korban on the Mizbeach. And the Gemara now says we learn three things from Rabbi Yochanan. Number one, Shma Mina Balei Chayim Nidachim. Number one, we learn that if you have live animals, they can be pushed off. And Rashi explains, Balei Chayim Nidachim Im Nidchu Yidchu Liolam. The point over here is, if they're pushed off from being brought on the Mizbeach, they're pushed off forever. And there's another mandamer that says that it only gets pushed off if it's been shechted. But if you have live animals that have been pushed off, chozim v'nirin, so they are allowed to become acceptable to the Mizbeach after the fact. According to that opinion, you could actually bring this animal. When you went ahead and bought the other half, you would be able to bring that animal on the Mizbeach. We also see from Rabbi Yochanan that if something is pushed off from the Mizbeach from the outset, that's considered to be dichoy. And Rashi says dichoy meikara kagonzu, like this case, that from the outset, when he was originally makdish the animal, lo nearest likarev, it couldn't be brought in the Mizbeach. There's a mandamer that argues that mandamer says that it's only considered dichoy if it was first fit for the Mizbeach and then it was pushed off. And finally, ushmami no yesh dichoy bedamim. We see from Rabbi Yochanan that when it comes to the value, you can have dichoy as well. And Rashi explains, yesh dichoy bedamim yesh toras dichoy bedavar she'eno kadosh ela ledamav, meaning if you have something that when you originally made it hektish, it was really made hektish for its value, you could still consider that to be dichoy. Kagonzu, for example, like this case, shemitchila lo hikdisha ela ledameh, because originally when he's just a partner, he's only being makdish it for its value. Shatim mocher v'yikdushu demechetzi. The idea is you'll sell it, and the money you get, the half the value, half that money that you get for that animal, you'll use that as hektish in order to bring a carbon. So because it certainly wasn't fit to bring half of it as a carbon, that's not going to be appropriate. Now, nevertheless, even though from the beginning when he was first makdish it was b'toras damim, but still that's considered to be pushed off from the mizbeach. Lidchos me'al mizbeach liolam. It's pushed off from the mizbeach forever. We don't say ein dichoy ela b'davar shehuktash legufo likarev. We don't say that the concept of dichoy only applies to something where when the person was initially makdish it, the idea was to be makdish it, that it be brought on the Mizbeach. And the Gemara continues, Boy Rava asks the following question, Chetziech bechatzi pruta. Let's say a man says to a woman, I'm being mekadesh half of you with a half a pruta, v'chetziech bechatzi pruta, and the other half of you with another half a pruta. Mahu, what's the halacha? Kevan do amar lo chatzi pruta paska. Once he says to her with the half a pruta, so that's like one statement, and that's impossible, he can't be mekadesh half of her with a half a pruta. Odil mamona v'holech, or maybe the idea is he's really counting, and what he means to say is, add up the half a pruta to the next half a pruta that I'm going to mention, and I'm really being mekadesh you entirely with one full pruta. And the Gemara says, Im Tim Salomer, if you want to say Mona V'holechu, that he's counting up, you're supposed to add it all up. So chetziech bepruta v'chetziech bepruta ma. What if he says half of you with a pruta and half of you with a pruta? So there, kevan do amar lo bepruta, since there he's talking about a full pruta, so therefore a pruta paschal milse, he's saying pruta and pruta, so he is stopping it, meaning the statement number one was half of you with a pruta. That statement is nothing, because he can't be mekadesh half the woman. And the second statement is also nothing. In this case, since it's a pruta, he's certainly not adding it to the next statement. Dilmor, maybe kol biyomei mona v'holechu. Maybe if he made the statement in the same day, so he is counting. He means that you're supposed to add it all up, and he means to be mekadesh her in her entirety. And imtim salomar kol biyomei mona v'holechu. And if you're going to say that anything in the same day, he's just counting, we're supposed to add it up. Chetziech bepruta hayom. What if he says half of you, I'm being mekadesh with a pruta today, v'chetziech bepruta l'machar, and half of you I'll be mekadesh with a pruta tomorrow. Mahu, what's the halach in that case? Kevan da amar lo lemocher paska, since he says tomorrow, so again he's stopping. It's considered independent, and it's not going to be a kiddushin. Odilmor maybe hachi kamar lo. Here's what he's saying to her: Kiddushin mischulu me'ha'idna. The kiddushin will start today. Umigmar lo nigmaru ad lemocher, and it won't be complete until tomorrow. And the intention is to add it up. And the Gemara continues: Shnei chetziech bepruta ma. What if he says 2 of your halves I'm being mekadesh with a pruta? Hachavade bechadzim the kamar law. There certainly he means to say add it all up. It means to be a full kiddushin. Odilma, or maybe ein isha miskadeshes lechatzoin klal. A woman is not able to have kiddushin halfway at all. And the Gemara says teku. The Gemara leaves it as a question. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. Boy, Rava asks the following question: Shnei benosecho l'shnei bonai bepruta ma. What if one man says to another man, your 2 daughters, I'm making a kiddushin for your 2 daughters to my 2 sons with this 1 pruta. So what's the halacha? Basar nosin u'mekabel azlin. And on the one hand, we can follow the giver and the receiver. It's one father giving to the other father, so it's a full pruta going from one to the other. Vayika mamon, and we have here actual mammon. We have here a pruta, and it should be a good kiddushin. Odilmar, maybe Basar did hu azlin. We follow them, meaning we follow the sons and the daughters. V'halekan, so they don't have a pruta each. It's actually a half a pruta each, and so therefore it wouldn't be good. And the Gemara says teku again. The Gemara leaves it as a question. And the Gemara continues, Boy Rav Papa asks the following question: Bitcho parascha bepruta mao. If a person says your daughter and your cow for 1 pruta, what is the halacha? Meaning to say he wants to be mekadesh the person's daughter, and he also wants to acquire the cow. Mi amrinan bitcha bechatzi pruta parascha bechatzi pruta. Do we say that what it means is your daughter for a half a pruta and your cow for a half a pruta? And of course, a half a pruta cannot create a kinyan, so it will not be effective. O dilmor, maybe bitcha bepruta. What he means to say is your daughter for a pruta. That's going to be the kiddushin. Uparascha b'mashicha, and then I'll do a mashicha. I'll pull your cow. I'll make a kinyan on your cow, and that's how I will acquire your cow. And the Gemara says teku. The Gemara leaves that as a question. And the Gemara continues, Boy Rav Ashi asks the following question: Bitcha v'karkocha bepruta ma'u. What if he says your daughter and your land for a pruta? What's the halacha? Bitcha v'chatzi pruta v'karkocha b'chatzi pruta. Does he mean to say that I'm taking your daughter for half a pruta and your karka that's also for half a pruta? And then again, of course, it will not be effective. Odilmor, maybe bitcha bepruta. What he means is I'm taking your daughter for a pruta, the karkocha b'chazaka, and I'm taking your karka, I'm taking your land with a kinyan chazaka. And the Gemara again says teku. The Gemara leaves that as a question. And the Gemara continues, Hahu gavra da akdish b'shiroi. There was a man who was mekadesh a woman with shiroi, which is silk garments. Rabba amar lo tzrichi shuma. Rabba says that those garments, they don't need an appraisal to determine their value. Rav Yosef amar tzrichi shuma, but Rav Yosef says no, they require an appraisal to determine their value in order for it to be a good kiddushin. And the Gemara explains, Ido amar lo becholdu. If he said to her that whatever they're worth, he didn't give her a value. He just said that whatever amount they're worth, that's what I'm being mekadesh, even if they're just worth a pruta. Kuli alma lo pligi de lo tzrichi shuma. There, everybody agrees. There's no argument. They certainly do not require an appraisal because they're certainly worth at least a pruta. Ido amar lo chamshin. Now, if he told her that they're worth 50, v'lo shavu chamshin, and it turns out they're not worth 50, so halo shavu, so they're not worth what he said, and so therefore again, certainly it's not going to be a kiddushin. Ki pligi damar chamshin v'shavu chamshin. The whole argument is, let's say he says that it's worth 50, and it turns out that it's worth 50. So Rabba amar lo tzrichi shuma. Rabba says that there's no appraisal that's needed to shavu chamshin, because at the end it really was worth 50. He gave exactly what he said, and therefore it's a good kiddushin. Rav Yosef amar, Rav Yosef says tzrichi shuma. No, they do require an appraisal. Kevan ditza lo bikia b'shuma. Since the woman, she's not an expert in terms of their value, so lo samcha daita, so she doesn't rely on his appraisal, what he says they were worth, and so therefore without an appraisal, it's not going to be a proper kinyan and won't be a good kiddushin. And the Gemara continues, Ika diamri, there are those that say, they have a different version, Bechol duhu nami pligi, even if he says that I'm being mekadesh with shiroi, whatever they are worth, as long as they're worth a pruta, but even there's a machlokas whether they require an appraisal or not. Rav Yosef Amar, Rav Yosef says, Shava kesef, hareu kekesef. When we talk about Shava kesef, meaning something that has value, something that's valued at a certain monetary amount, but it follows the same rules as kesef. Ma kesef dekates, just like by money, there's a set value, you know exactly how much it is worth, so too over here you have to know exactly how much it is worth, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ches Amud Aleph.